everyone, and welcome to a special deck reveal here on Commander at Home. Thanks so much to Wizards of the Coast for giving us one of the Commander decks from Tarkir Dragonstorm to share with you all. We have the Abzan Armor deck that we will be showing you all today.
Exciting one for me because I love Abzan, and exciting for Brian because obviously dragons. So
they're all exciting to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we couldn't miss on this one, but this was the perfect little blend of he gets a dragon, I get one of my favorite color combos. So I guess we'll just get right to it. Kicking off the festivities, we have our face commander, Felothar the Steadfast, an Abzan to cast, a legendary human warrior with 0/5 power and toughness. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have defender. 3, tap, sacrifice another creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, then discard cards equal to its power.
So this is like Doran on any number of performance-enhancing drugs, right? Like, I was a huge Doran the Siege Tower enjoyer back in the day. Like, I played a Doran deck to the top 8 of Pro Tour Amsterdam, and was thinking about making a Doran commander deck. Maybe I'll make a Felothar deck instead, because this does everything that a high toughness deck like Doran wants, except even better.
Yeah,
right?
That last ability is actually
it's wild, right?
Really
like you just play your huge wall type creatures, and not only can you smack people for huge amounts of damage with giant toughness creatures, but you can also draw tons of cards. And having that in the command zone, not only turning on everything in your deck, guaranteed having access to it, but having that ability to reload on that commander is crazy powerful.
Yeah, especially, this color combo isn't super heavy on the draw stuff, so like having that as an option is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty nice stuff.
Next up, we have Betor, Ancestor's Voice, 2 in Abzan for a legendary spirit dragon, power and toughness 3/5. Betor has flying and lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, put a number of +1/+1 counters on up to one other target creature you control equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. Return up to one target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you lost this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield.
So this isn't actually revealed because you actually revealed it at Commander Home Live at MagicCon Chicago, which was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And we will hopefully have that video up to share with you all on the channel sometime soon. But this card is pretty nuts.
Betor is amazing. I got a small assist on my deck building with Budget Commander. And as we were going through, we're like, how do you get that really good cohesive synergy of life loss and gain in the same turn? And rad counters from Fallout is the answer.
It mills you and makes you lose life.
It makes you lose life. And then what you do is you just put a bunch of really stupid, huge creatures in there that all have life link. Gain the life right back, rinse and repeat. It is a really cool commander. I think it's a really inventive approach to it, having the life gain, life loss matter so much and in such different ways.
There's interesting life payment stuff, obviously in black, obviously a lot of life gain in green and white. And there's a lot of cards out there that you wouldn't necessarily really play in many decks that in a Betor deck can be just kind of outrageous, like Necrologia, for instance.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Pay a bunch of life, draw cards during end step. So, one of the things that I love about a card like this is just how much it can turn on those kind of sleeper designs that really don't see play otherwise. And, finding ways to kind of all the pieces come together of life gain, self-mill, life loss is a really interesting puzzle, and it's a dragon. What is there not to love?
Arbor Adherent, 3 and a green for a dog druid.
Yes, already like it.
It's a 2/4 mana dork. You can tap to add 1 mana of any color, or you can tap to add X mana of any one color, where X is the greatest toughness among other creatures you control.
So this guy is obviously, in a deck that's gonna be playing very high toughness creatures. Just say with your commander alone, right? This taps for 5 mana. It's a obviously 4-cost mana creature, but any individual card that generates 2, 3, 4, 5 plus mana is just often going to be extremely powerful.
Sure, and you can't bolt the dog because it's a 4 toughness.
True. And who would bolt a dog?
Exactly.
Really,
monsters.
Not only do you have the benefit of this card being extremely powerful, you can shame your opponents if they try to actually remove your creature because would you really? Pow, my good boy, come on, look at him.
A very good boy indeed.
Very good boy.
Next up, we have Canopy Gargantuan, 5 green for a dragon that's a 7/7. It has flying and ward 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a number of +1/+1 counters on each other creature you control equal to that creature's toughness. Yikes.
In a deck with, big toughness creatures, this can kind of go nuts. It does cost 7 mana and it doesn't do anything until it gets to your next upkeep. So that can be a little bit more difficult than, you know, some more explosive immediate things like a Craterhoof Behemoth or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But it stays in play. Right? This sticks around and continues to have its effect each turn if it isn't removed, and it doesn't take very long for a card like this to just close the game out.
I mean, is very Abzan from the first Tarkir set where, you know, you have so many counters and there's a lot of synergy to move them around too. So there's new stuff for it too, like Resourceful Defenses, but you can use a bunch of those old Abzan cards that have so much synergy with this if you do want to further explore this deck or like tweak it, add to it. There's a bunch of different ways you can go with it.
Yeah, and this doesn't necessarily have to go into like a wall type deck, right?
No.
Like, just if you have a 5/5, it's like, oh, all my 5/5 gets +5/+5 every single turn, right? So
it's insane.
It's definitely the sort of thing that, like, you know, if it doesn't go away, your opponents go away.
Yeah, exactly. We have Jaws of Defeat, which is 3 and a black for an enchantment. When a creature you control enters, target opponent loses life equal to the difference between that creature's power and its toughness.
This is like, hey, play a 0/10.
Yeah.
Hey, play, you know, what, like Tree of Redemption or Tree of
Perdition, yeah.
Or both.
Oh, both of them.
If you have a deck full of a bunch of you know, Doran, Felothar style creatures, this is going to kill your opponents very fast too.
Yes.
And you don't even have to attack them, right? Like
no.
if you have opponents who are hiding behind
attacking.
propaganda, hiding behind Ghostly Prison, or just have a big board and it's difficult to get through, well, sorry, you're going to claim victory from the Jaws of Defeat with the Jaws of Defeat. You can make any kind of puns relating to that you want.
Next up, Protector of the Wastes, 4 white for a dragon creature that is a 5/5. This obviously has flying. When this creature enters or becomes monstrous, exile up to 2 target artifacts and/or enchantments controlled by different players. 4 and white for Monstrosity 3.
This is like, does a lot, right? It feels, I will say this feels slightly out of place in this deck because it's just a square statted creature, right? It's a 5/5. Yeah. But like, you know, this is just a really good commander card in general, right?
True, yeah.
A 6 cost creature that when it comes into play, right, and you can blink it, you just get to get rid of multiple artifacts and enchantments.
It's not until it leaves the battlefield.
Right.
I think it just
this is just they're gone.
Yeah, okay.
There's, you know, just so much utility from this.
Yeah.
And, you know, you, like I said, you can blink it. You get an extra use of it with Monstrosity.
Yeah,
if you know, the game goes longer. It's just an extremely powerful tool for taking out problematic enchantments and artifacts, or just getting rid of someone's Soul Ring. It's not going to happen when it's, you know, screwing them in mana because it costs 6, unless you're the one ramping crazy. But yeah, really powerful card.
We've got Rampart Architect, 3 and a green for an Elephant Advisor that's a 3/4. When this creature enters or attacks, create a 1/3 white wall creature token with Defender. Whenever a creature you control with Defender dies, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that card on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle.
This is very strong. Like, a lot of wall decks will have you know, a variety of just like cheap walls that like cantrip, like Wall of Omens, Wall of Blossoms, or things like Wall of Mulch that allow you to sacrifice things to draw cards. And this can enable you to turn those into ramp as well.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild, right? Like
Rampart Architect.
Rampart Architect, hey, I see what you did there. But you know, like if you have a bunch of walls in play, you Wrath, suddenly your board is just full of land, right? Obviously you need to have a certain density of basic land in your deck for this card to be good. So there, you often do have the sort of push and pull of having a more consistent mana base with more dual lands, or how many basics do you want for a card like this? But this is a really powerful tool for any kind of defender-based deck to really get out ahead when their stuff starts dying.
Yeah. Reunion of the House, 5 white for a sorcery. Return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile Reunion of the House. There's an ally one that's similar to this, but it's power 8. This effect has been seen before, definitely. But yeah, it's actually kind of cool here because power 10 or less
in a wall deck
is
this can be your whole graveyard, right? This can just be, and obviously seven mana can be a lot to bring back, you know, a bunch of stuff. But like,
not
again,
after you just cast
Rampart
Architect.
or we're using the Arbor Adherent. You know, you have a lot of resources, especially if you have ways to like sacrifice those things to get value out of them, like I mentioned with like a Wall of Mulch. I mean, like if you have Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar, finally we broke those cards. But you know, there's a lot of ways that you can use this. Obviously, this exile, so you can't like recur and do crazy stuff like that. But basically, this is bring my entire graveyard back in a deck that is focused on this style of strategy, and that's very powerful.
Yeah, it's way cool. Tip the Scales is 2 black for a sorcery. Sacrifice a creature. When you do, all creatures get -X until end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's toughness.
This is a Toxic Deluge-esque effect, right? I'd often much rather just sacrifice my like 0-7 wall than
Sure.
pay 7 life.
Yeah,
to clear the
exactly.
board,
Yeah.
Right? My guy was gonna die anyway. And one of the funny things too is if you have a lot of very large toughness creatures, sometimes you'll be able to sacrifice something that clears everyone else's stuff, and then you still have your high toughness creatures that survive.
Exactly.
You know, maybe, and it only costs 3 mana, so you could pretty easily cast like Tip the Scales, wipe the board of like all of the rest of the creatures, have some like 0-10 sitting around, play your Felothar, and then just kill someone.
Yep, absolutely.
So this definitely feels quite powerful to me.
Yeah. And finally, we have Will of the Abzan, 3 and a black for a sorcery. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast this spell, you may choose both instead. Any number of target opponents each sacrifice a creature with the greatest power among creatures that player controls and lose 3 life. Return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield.
So the whole will of the whole will of the clan
Will
cycle.
of the clan cycle, yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And this one feels like it has some interesting political options because it's any number of target opponents.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's just like, oh, you know, you like have like a crackling doom or whatever. It's like all of you lose a big guy. This one's like, no, it's like, hey,
Maybe
I
only
won't
those
make
guys
you
lose big guys.
sacrifice
Yeah.
if this. You know, if there's particular problems that you want to deal with, which are often big creatures.
Yeah.
And then obviously also, you know, a reanimation effect, you know, if you're playing a Betor style version of this, you're very likely to be, you know, having a lot more stuff milled into your graveyard, and that gives you a lot more utility. But even with Felothar, it's like, all right, I'll sacrifice my guy. Okay, I'll bring it back. All you guys lose your biggest guy, and now I get that thing that just drew me 10 cards back.
Yep. All right, well, that's what we have for all of our new cards, and it's time for the reprints. Starting off with creatures. Ikra Shidiqi, the Usurper, Tree of Redemption, Weathered Sentinels, Walking Bulwark, Wall of Limbs, Arasta, the Endless Web, Arboreal Grazer, Nyx-Fleece Ram, Baldin, Sentry Herdmaster, Indomitable Ancients, Axebane Guardian, Rhox Faithmender, Shalai, Voice of Plenty, Hornet Nest, Zetalpa, Primal Dawn, Carven Caryatid, Wall of Blossoms, Wall of Omens, Wall of Reverence, Wall of Roots, Towering Titan, Seedborn Muse, Sylvan Caryatid, Dragonlord Dromoka, Faeburrow Elder, Indulging Patrician, Shadrick's Silverquill, Sidar Kondo of Jamura, Welcoming Vampire, Wingmantle Chaplain, Wakestone Gargoyle, Jedi Offshoot, Overgrown Battlement, Blightpile, and Crashing Drawbridge.
So we know that this is a pre-constructed deck because it has Zetalpa in it.
Absolutely.
But I will point out,
We be flapping.
I will point out that with Felothar, we be flapping for a lot more damage, right? Double striking
Very
off
much
that
so.
8 is a lot scarier than off that 4.
It sure is.
But yeah, obviously lots of walls in here. Pretty interesting reprints,
Yeah.
Just in general.
Seedborn Muse in a pre-con.
Seedborn Muse, yeah.
Seedborn Muse in a
I
pre-con.
mean, I'm a huge Dragonlord Dromoka fan.
Obviously, yeah.
Works very well
I like
as
Faeburrow
well with
Elder
Felothar.
coming in too, yeah.
But yeah, lots of really cool stuff, and you know, I'm excited.
For artifacts, we're running Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, Kolfanor's Urn, Swiftfoot Boots, Orzhov Signet, Selesnya Signet, Staff of Completion. Some fixed.
What do you know? It's got a Soul Ring and an Arcane Signet.
Well, it's a pre-con, right? We got Zetalpa, we've got our two absolutes. There we go. For enchantments, we're running Assault Formation and Behind the Scenes.
Behind the Scenes is a card that I did not know existed before. Your guys have Skulk,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
insane with 0 power creatures. You have all these like 0-8 walls. Like, sorry, do you have a 0 power creature yourself? Can't block otherwise.
Huh.
I had never seen that card before in my life, and I'm like, wow, this is a good card.
Okay, that's a spicy include, yeah. For instance, we've got Swords to Plowshares, Anguished Unmaking, Despark, Infernal Grasp, and Tower Defense. For sorceries, we've got Slaughter the Strong, Feed the Swarm, and Expel the Interlopers.
Slaughter the Strong and Expel the Interlopers are obviously
Amazing,
just super
yeah.
powerful cards in a deck like this, where it's like, yeah, we'll
The
Slaughter the
Strong.
It's like, I've all 0 power guys.
Yeah.
Ha ha.
Yep. For our lands, we have Access Tunnel, Canopy Vista, Deceptive Landscape, Fortified Village, Overgrown Farmland, Radiant Grove, Sungrass Prairie, Sunpetal Grove, Temple of Plenty, Twilight Mire, Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Path of Ancestry, Bajuka Bog, Isolated Chapel, Temple of Silence, Temple of Malady, Woodland Cemetery, 6 Plains, 5 Swamps, and 7 Forests.
I will say that there's actually like a pretty decent mana base in a lot of modern pre-constructed decks. We're not seeing nearly as many just like mediocre tap lands, right? Like things like Overgrown Farmland,
Yeah.
or Fortified Village, Woodland Cemetery, Isolate
Forest.
Chapel. These, yes. Command Tower. No, I mean these are legitimately like good lands,
Yeah.
right? And we mentioned that with things like the Rampart Architect, you do want a certain density of
Absolutely.
basic lands. So even though it isn't like it's a 3-color deck with a pretty high number of basics, there's still enough fixing, I think, amongst the rest of things to put you in a pretty good spot with your mana. And when you can draw tons of extra cards with Felothar, you're gonna find what you need.
Hopefully you won't have a fail to find on basic lands when there's 18 of them,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
hey, who knows?
But there you go.
Yeah.
There's a deck, Abzan Armor. I think this is a very exciting deck.
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, I am a huge Doran enjoyer, and I've been looking for an excuse to put together a Doran-like deck for a long time. And
You have one.
I think this very well may be the excuse I need, especially our dog druid right here.
Well, it works out perfectly because I actually really liked Betor. The build we had for Commander at Home Live was really, really fun, and we had to pull some cards out to make sure that the vibe matched, but I think with a couple little tweaks, it'll be a really, really fun deck since it's off face. Either of these are cool for the pre-con itself, but yeah, like I agree with you. Like you said, it's really Felothar based, and Betor is like a fun bonus or something to pull aside, switch out, and build something else around. So
yeah. So whether you want to play it out of the box or make your own Felothar brew, make your own Betor brew, a lot of cool options here from Abzan Armor. So let us know what you're thinking of doing with this deck. And once again, thanks so much to Wizard of the Coast for sharing this with us.
Oh yeah, and if you want to see what the other 4 decks are like, you can check out our Commander at Home episode where we're playing the other 4 pre-cons in a game, and gets a little nutty.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.